Today we're going to talk about life under rotten bark. I had a big tree that came down, and as I cut it up to be able to move it off the trail, a piece of bark fell off, and I saw life under it. I moved it, I took some pictures, then I found another one, lifted the bark off of it, and I just kept finding more and more life. So, we're going to talk today about some of the life I found and the things that you can find by digging around, whether it's lifting up things underneath like rocks or pots or a piece of loose bark. So, here we go. These loose white threads that you see here are actually the hyphae of fungi. That is, the tiny threads that extend all the way through the wood and draw nutrition, collecting it throughout the log. And in that process, they leave a lot of this material on top, which various things can eat. We're going to be seeing some of the things that eat those. We also know that there will be a time when they're ready to fruit and they come to the surface, and we call that a mushroom. You've probably seen some of these mushrooms on rotting logs. I know you've seen the jelly ears, the little brown things that look like ears. So that's just another example. Some things like to eat fungi. Do you like to eat fungi? I do. We call them mushrooms. And not only like my friend here who likes to eat mushrooms, but there's a lot of animals that like to eat mushrooms too. And so we're going to now switch over to one of those things that likes to eat mushrooms. This is a wood roach, and wood roaches live under wood and around rotting wood where they eat rotten wood and they eat fungi that are part of that, and they scurry around and make a living. They have an incomplete metamorphosis, which I think you'll remember means that they don't have any pupa phase. They don't ever go through something that looks different. They always look like roaches, little tiny roaches getting bigger with each shift. And the adults don't the female adults don't have wings. The babies don't have wings. The males fly around to find the females, and that's how they reproduce. These are not cockroaches, which sometimes get in your house and may panic your mother because they run across the floor. They're dirty, filthy, they get into things, but this is a different kind of roach. So, this is a good roach, not a bad one. Now, here we have an interesting character, the eastern red centipede. It has an incomplete metamorphosis. It moves rapidly. And what do you know about centipedes and their legs? Centipedes move rapidly with a single pair of legs in each body segment. They're carnivores. They have to move fast. They run up to their prey and they inject the venom into their prey to immobilize them and then eat them. They suck them up. And so they eat soft bodied insects primarily, but they have been known to even eat a baby frog. Don't pick them up because they have that poison that they inject into insects. It could also affect you by hurting you, causing pain. So you don't want to pick up a centipede. Next, I'm going to show you the difference between a centipede and a millipede. The millipedes have two legs per each body segment on each side. So it is two pair of legs on a body segment, whereas a centipede only has one. When a centipede, one pair that is, when a centipede is moving rapidly, you can't tell the difference. So I've enlarged these so you can take a look at them and see the difference. Got it? Okay. This is a flatback millipede. These are vegetarians. They eat the decaying wood and fungus. They crawl around in the dark, and they're pretty helpless. They move very slowly. And so they have, however, one defense, and that is they have chemicals that they put out for defense. In this case, this one actually secretes cyanide, So it'd be toxic and could kill anything that tried to eat it. You don't want to get this on your fingers. Best not to handle a millipede and to wash it carefully if you do. Wouldn't be enough to get you, but it could sure make you sick. Uh, they have this one has a particularly interesting life in that there is a fungus that sometimes infects it, and it will climb out from under the wood, climb up as high as it can, and sit up there so that something else will eat it, and then that fungus will be spread that way. Really a strange story. Now, this is Narcus americanus, the giant millipede, the largest of millipedes, and I actually saw this one the same day a few hours earlier when I was hiking up in the forest. It's twice as large as any of the other millipedes in the United States. Some people actually keep them as pets. In fact, you can supposedly order them online. Uh, it reproduces by laying a single egg in a pile of its regurgitated food. Does that sound like much fun for a kid? Not really. Uh, it becomes an adult in 1 to 2 years, and it may live for 10 years. The one that I saw was 4 inches long, quite big, and moved nice and slow. But we're going to see how that goes in a minute here. The picture on the left here is a picture that was taken by Mrs. Reese. She sent this to me a few years ago, and it's the same millipede. Its defense, as you can see on the right, when it's threatened, is it rolls up in a tight ball, and then it secretes a noxious liquid. A noxious means it's yucky. In this particular case, it would burn the skin, and you'd need to be very careful. You wouldn't want to get this on your hands and then touch your face or especially your eye because it would burn. They move quite slowly, as I'm going to show you now. I took this video out in the field watching it crawl around on various places. So I got very close and focused in on it. And you can see how its legs move. You'll notice that it's almost like a wave. 3 or 4 legs will reach forward and pull. It looks like a team of rowers, and they're not synchronized, but different people having different strokes. It's really cool to watch. So you go ahead and enjoy it here. This little beauty was under another piece of bark that I lifted, and it just sat there, unlike everything else that was trying to get away from me. It's called a tiger beetle, and it hunts on bare ground, and it can move rapidly. It can actually scramble along at 5 miles per hour. That's faster than you can walk. You would have to break into a trot to keep up with it. On the other hand, it doesn't seem to be afraid of humans. So everyone I've seen, I've been able to get down and take photographs of them. They didn't move unless I pushed them, and then they can take off quickly. So they are carnivores. They eat ants, aphids, caterpillars, any small insect. They grab them with their pinchers and inject their enzymes. It's the stuff like you and I have in our stomach. And so it goes into the body of what they've grabbed and it digests them inside and they suck those juices out. The grubs are very interesting. They live, when they hatch, they dig a tunnel and they live in that tunnel with their head just right at the surface, waiting for something to come by. And when it does, they jump up and grab it. And then they have the same mechanism of sucking out the juices to feed themselves. Finally, another log that I rolled over, the bark fell off and it was wild under there. There was this ant that you see here. crawling all over the place. They were scurrying around, desperate because they weren't used to being out in the open. I sent the pictures off to a friend of mine who's a myrmecologist. That's your new word. It means a man who studies ants, and he runs the ant web on the computer, on the internet, and I sent it to him, and he told me the name of them, which you can see up here. They live in rotten wood and moist soil. They don't know everything that they eat, but they do eat honeydew that's excreted by aphids. So there are aphids that live in under the roots, which I did not know. And they too, like some of the aphids that occur in your garden plants, they secrete a very sticky secretion called honeydew. And it's very nutritious, and ants love it. And so certain varieties of ants will actually farm them like you would a dairy cow. They'll protect them from invaders. They will move them to safety when they need to, and they can touch the body of the aphid, and a drop of the honeydew can come off that they can eat. It doesn't hurt the aphid. The aphid gets the protection, and they get the milk. I meant honey. And if you look at this picture here, you will see on the left lower corner, there's two of those white aphids that have just a tiny drop of clear liquid where they've been touched, and they've excreted that liquid, and that's for the ants to eat or take back to their young ones. In this video, you can see the ants are panicked now. The bark is off, and they're running around trying to protect their family. The white things that you see there are their young. That's their larva. And they go through from egg to larva to pupa to adult, the complete life cycle. And you can see him hauling them off, trying to get them to safety. It must be a very panicky time for them. All of a sudden, their dark world, moist, is now suddenly, exposed. You can see him struggle, trying to drag it back into a hole. So I put the lid back on this with the bark so that they were protected. Normally, I would try and protect their environment by leaving them alone, but in this case, the logs were in the way and I had to be moved. But they'll figure it out. They'll go out and figure a way around it. Meanwhile, it's time for you to start your own backyard adventure. Pick up pots, look under rocks, look under everything, and see what you can see. Sometimes you can even put out a little bit of peanut butter to bait them. We'll talk about that later. Meanwhile, have a good day and a good year, even though we can't be together. And we'll look forward to talking with you a little later here. Bye now.